Hey guys, Jay-Sensei here again. This is going to be what if Midoriya was like Garp. He is going to be he's going to be Garp, the hero. Now, this story begins much before we get into that. We have things to do, such as chores, work, even if it's gaming, go do that. I'm meant to be listened to, not watched. Now, let's begin. And the story begins with Midoriya being born early, about 3 years early. And when Inko gave birth to him, Midoriya does grow up with Hiyashi, and Hiyashi would enroll Midoriya in martial arts classes, specifically boxing, or in an MMA gym, but with a boxing instructor as the one who's around him the most. And that happens when Midoriya's about 5, and Hiyashi ends up leaving. Now, Midoriya already knew he's going to be quirkless, as when kids were working their quirks, Midoriya could already tell he wasn't going to be like them. Because, well, simply put, he didn't want to. They acted like arrogant jerks. So if a quirk gave him that kind of personality, he'd prefer to not be one. This led to Midoriya pouring his heart into boxing. And when it came to the test, or not the test, but the appointment where Inko's like, Midoriya, come on, we need to know if you have a quirk. Midoriya just said he doesn't want to go do it. He doesn't care if he has one or not. If he does, he'll awaken it on his own time. That did surprise Inko that Midoriya's probably the only person around who does not care about quirks. As Midoriya began boxing, more and more, Inko did realize Midoriya's probably never going to awaken a quirk, but the thing is, in school whenever someone pointed out Midoriya doesn't have a quirk, they face the right hook so gruesome, they lose most of their teeth. So, even when Midoriya was bullied for it, his bullies got back an even worse injury. Now, Midoriya is about, say, 13, he's in middle school. And on his walk home, he encounters this kid trying to fight a group of delinquents. This kid has an explosion quirk. Midoriya does acknowledge this kid's definitely a hothead, obviously. But when he's about to lose these other middle schoolers, one of the kids tries to basically use his quirk on Bakugo. It's obvious Bakugo's explosion quirk. He tries to use his quirk, and let's say his quirk was something involving... You know how that one kid has a plate quirk? Let's say someone had a variation of that, but with knives. That guy tried to use his knife quirk on Bakugo, only had his face grabbed by Midoriya and then squeezed. The guy fell to the ground, clutching Midoriya's arm, trying to get him off of him, even trying to stab him. But the knives didn't go deep in Midoriya's arms. His bones were like concrete. They wouldn't penetrate them. Midoriya proceeded to basically beat the delinquents with the one he's holding in his hand. And Bakugo would be surprised at Midoriya's quirk is. And Midoriya just says, "I'm strong as shit," and just walked away. A few weeks later, Bakugo was caught in the same situation, and Midoriya was to the rescue, calling Bakugo an idiot for trying to fight older kids. Now Bakugo did actually ask Midoriya's quirk again, saying, "Super strength, that was what you meant?" Midoriya says, "No, I'm just stronger than the average person, even though I'm quirkless." Bakugo's probably saying, "Last time the guy stabbed you, you didn't even bleed." He says, "I'm strong as shit, but I don't know what else was supposed to say about that." Midoriya trying to charge him with the explosion, but Midoriya just tanked to the chest, before headbutting Bakugo in the face as hard as he can. Bakugo fell over unconscious and woke up in the forest, seeing Midoriya punching a tree. Midoriya's punching it over and over again. You can even see trees around him were all knocked down, with fist imprints all over them. Bakugo asks Midoriya this is how he trains, and he says, yeah, he's a pretty good boxer, and his teacher doesn't really going to give him anything anymore. Midoriya even shows off a variation of the six powers, being the six powers are Geppo, Rankyaku, Shigan, Tekai, Kamiye, and Rankyaku. So Geppo, Rankyaku, Shigan, Tekai, Kamiye, and Soru. Those are the six powers. So Soru, Geppo, Rankyaku, Shigan, Tekai, Kamiye. Yeah. And then the seventh power is Roku Ogan. So, Bakugo would train under Midoriya for a few years until Midoriya goes to UA, where he got in basically off of intelligence alone. As Garp is a very intelligent person. So Midoriya would enroll in UA, and he still goes off to train Bakugo sometimes. No. Midoriya is not part of the big three, the fact that no one really likes to acknowledge Midoriya's power, but he is still pretty great friends with Neijire, Tamaki, and Mirio. In fact, he even teaches Mirio over to boxing, so Mirio's probably a better combatant than he is before with Midoriya's teachings. By the time Midoriya is in the beginning of his third year, so this is the beginning of the story. Like such villain, Bakugo, even if he got caught, which I think All Might could handle such villain at this point, because Midoriya, I can see him catching it. Or maybe if you went to Bakugo being stronger could probably handle it and get himself out. But by the beginning of the first years entering UA, Midoriya was met by Nezu. And Midoriya basically leaves the apartment, only see Nezu there. He asks Nezu what he wants. At this point, Midoriya wears a very similar suit to Garp. Midoriya just has average human proportions, if not just a little bit bulkier than the average guy. Probably like, I can see Midoriya probably even being the same size as All Might if you want to give Midoriya Garp's absurd size. So we think Midoriya is built like All Might, which I actually can see fitting, as I think he'd still be a fan of something like All Might. So yeah, so Midoriya's kind of built like All Might. He just wears a suit 24/7 because he likes it, but it happens to also be a hero suit, which makes it fireproof, stab-proof, and waterproof. And it doesn't really need to be bulletproof. Midoriya is just durable enough to take that. So knives are just variations because quirks can actually have knives, or knives can be part of quirks. But Nezu talked to Midoriya saying, hey, Midoriya, and you including staff, one of the smartest kids, people at UA, we'd like you to take a diploma early and enroll as a martial arts instructor. Midoriya would ask why, and he says, well, simply put, you're probably the most skilled person in Japan. You invented a whole martial arts style and use it more efficiently than what you could teach Aizawa. Aizawa does use a bit of a Midoriya's martial arts style sometimes, and the only thing he can really pull off is Kamiye and Shigan, being finger pistol. Everything else literally requires more physical strength than Aizawa has. Physical strength and speed than Aizawa has. So Midoriya agrees to become a martial arts instructor for UA. So at this point, he's not even a student anymore. He's a teacher. Now, for the first bit of it, Midoriya, before this teaching got serious, I was in the 2 weeks. Midoriya is met by All Might, wants to talk about One for All. The idea of transferring your quirk goes into everything Midoriya knows about quirks. I actually would encourage All Might, Nezu, and him to all study it together. And with this, they're going to realize that even with one user of One for All, like the fourth user, even with him, it seems like he died from One for All. Even Midoriya proposed this idea of he didn't really seem to fight All for One. It kind of just seems like he died because of the quirk. Then Midoriya starts going into the quirk theory of quirks get stronger with every generation. Maybe One for All was so ahead of the curve with each user point where their body overloads. All Might asks how come he hasn't died yet, as he seems to be the oldest user of One for All, and Midoriya simply says, because the glass that One for All is in of liquid would usually be half full, but One for All would be adding a whole new gallon. Your glass is empty. So this All Might does realize that Midoriya is right. The reason that All Might is so strong is because he's not being enhanced, well he is, but his body is not under the pressure of two quirks, but it's under the pressure of one strong one. We just realize that the only person who can probably have One for All after him is Midoriya. As Midoriya is already at this point probably comparable to All Might, if not stronger, so in everyone else's opinion. At full power, Midoriya is the strongest person in Japan, including All for One. And Gigantomachia. But, what was I going to say? So All Might actually at this point does, after this union theory, does realize that he should probably not pass down One for All, but he's basically going to hold on to it until it's absolutely necessary to abandon it. Or to pass it on, saying if I'm going to die in battle, someone should be near me, and then I can pass on the quirk. Or I'll die with it, and Midoriya can carry my torch. I just think Midoriya is someone who's on his level. Alright. Now for the entrance exam. When that happened, Midoriya was literally just watching, and he's a proctor. It came down to Uraraka being under rubble. Midoriya basically rushed up, and didn't even punch the robot. He literally just pushed it over, landed, saved Uraraka, and then brought her to safety. Point where actually people got negative hero points for not saving Uraraka. So someone like Ida realized, oh no, I was not being a hero, I was being a coward. So, yeah. The quirk apprehension test, later to that. As a teaching assistant, Midoriya would basically play a key role for this test, as he would oversee everything but also give examples of the ball throw. Midoriya would show off what the ball throw is, but also how very actually, like, you can just throw it, but also enhance it with your quirk. As he would throw it, then jump in the air, and then use Moonwalk, kicking the air at full force, sending the ball flying even higher. Or he would basically not use Roku Ogon, but he would probably do something like, actually, something like maybe Rankyaku, but that'd probably end up more or less cutting it in half, but You can show off how you can dip the ball, then use your quirk, or you can just simply throw all your force. Now, for number 1 score, it's Araka. Number 2 is Bakugo. Bakugo is a strong character point where I'd probably compare him to what he is in the final exams. Like the one we fought All Might. He's probably comparable to that at the beginning of the story. Then, for the side jumps, Midoriya shows off his insane physicality there again. Only person who's not surprised are Aizawa and Bakugo. So, that's kind of shocking to everyone but those two. Battle Trials. So, as the battle trials go on, Midoriya and All Might are both working together to point out where each team is failing or succeeding. By the way, if I can mention, Shinso's in this class. He places where Midoriya should be. Goes wondering, oh, why is that? Why not? So, basically Shinso and Araka versus Bakugo and Ida. And Midoriya pointed out how, knowing Shinso's quirk, he has to act fast against Bakugo. Bakugo is someone who will fall for the quirk. He even says outright, Bakugo's worst enemy would be someone like Shinso. Bakugo's still disciplined, sure. He's a hothead, though. And the behold, Midoriya is right. Bakugo falls into brainwash. He's handcuffed. He's out. They get to Ida, and Ida, being so matter of fact, also falls prey to the brainwash. The MVP here, Midoriya's opinion should be Shinso, as he's the one who went through everything cleanly. But Aizawa, All Might said, Ida had the most clean plan. He should be MVP. At least Midoriya and All Might have a very quick scuffle, which Midoriya wins, but All Might just simply says, Bakugo, Ida's the MVP. And the students all play back what Midoriya had said about Bakugo, and Bakugo just says, you're a bastard. We're just sitting down pouting about not winning. USJ. All Might doesn't even need to be here, so All Might doesn't strain his body like he did in canon. He literally just goes to work. Plus, Midoriya is also staff, so he can probably be someone who's on patrol able to fight against students. Plus, he has a provisional license already. He got one years ago. So, let's say the villains that All Might would need to face, he can do so, then go to work without being phased, or Midoriya can do them on his way to work. So one of the villains are handled, and one of them goes to USJ, but the one of them goes to USJ is Midoriya. Now, when Kurogiri tries to drop portals for everyone, Midoriya can completely actually just use Soru and save dozens of people, but he saved a few select people, being Suyu, Mineta, and probably Toru and Aoyama. Basically the 4 he deemed as not the weakest, but the most at disadvantage, even in the terrain they were going to go to. By the way, given how he sees Toru, his senses are so honed to the point where he doesn't even really need to see people, he just needs to hear breathing. As long as he can hear breathing, he knows you're there. His senses are basically maxed out to the maximum. That's how he has observation hockey. Then for Conqueror's hockey, the only thing that Stain does when he had Flex Bloodlust, Midoriya does that, but it's basically him flexing heroism and his will to fight you. But basically just battle spirit and heroism is what Midoriya projects, and it's so overwhelming it does neutralize some people. For armament hockey, he does not need that. His bones are basically just concrete, so it works. But when it comes down to this, Midoriya can pretty quickly see through who's all going to be a threat, and it quickly got in a runner's pose. It was with Aizawa sitting on his back. Midoriya just charges through the villains, using himself as basically just a battering ram, sending them all flying through the air. Bakugo would jump in, throwing off his gauntlets in the air as well, creating massive explosions. Then he had jumped through his own area in one go, so he jumped into battle immediately. But Midoriya found the Nomu, and they start going blow for blow. Anytime Aizawa does that, or Midoriya does that, is I was fighting off fodder villains, or occasionally Shigaraki. Now, to Shigaraki's shock, Midoriya would actually beat the shock absorption out of the Nomu almost instantaneously, as Midoriya's punching faster than All Might can. That means then the Nomu basically was just done for the fight. Midoriya had blown apart its head over and over again. Its body is no longer regenerating. Its body is just done. The body's out of steam. And it should be an immortal soldier. True, but it still has limits. It has a quirk, and quirks have limits. She has few quirks, so it has multiple limits. And Midoriya beat the Nomu into hitting those limits. But with that, the Nomu's defeated, and then Kurogiri and Shigaraki retreat. Aizawa does not. It's not this very injured thinking. It's like a small, a little decay wound from Shigaraki. But yeah, that was the USJ. For the sports festival, Midoriya is basically a referee. Other than when he trained with for his first year of UA as the first two people he trained with. The first person he trained with was actually Mirko. I was wondering, oh wow, she doesn't train with people. Midoriya is a brawler through and through. Mirko loved that. So Mirko took interest in Midoriya first try, but didn't want to take him on again. And by then, UA acknowledged him what kind of person he was. So all my guys has seen Midoriya, so I actually would bring him to Gran Torino, even though he's a one for all. So Midoriya's two teachers were Mirko and Gran Torino. Those are who Midoriya's teachers were. By the way, Mirko does have some of Midoriya's 6 powers. She would use Soryu and Tekai, or I think I said Geppo and Shigun. I'm not sure. Geppo and Tekai. So basically, Skywalk and Iron Body are what she uses. And for the sports festival, someone who could replace Midoriya for this one, as Shinso's in the festival himself, someone who could replace him could be, I'm going to say Hatsume. Let's say someone from 1B got in this tournament. Let's say Monoma got into the fights. So it came down to Monoma versus Shinso. Monoma's arrogance got the worst of him, and he would answer Shinso's question. Shinso at this point, having taken from Midoriya's martial arts classes, taking them to heart more often than most people, aside from Bakugo, would basically give Monoma the meanest right, left, uppercut, jab, cross, hook, all that. The time he's done, Monoma had already gone out of the brainwashing, but he basically just bloody pulp and falls over. Shinso just nods as Monoma was knocked out, and then eventually in his next fight, it's against Todoroki, and he got basically just flash froze. Or he was about to be, but then Midoriya jumped in. Well, also for Zero, he jumped in, taking the freeze head on, but he just broke out of it. And he says that Todoroki wins. He can't freeze his classmates. He can invoke hypothermia, things like that. And he tried to do the same thing to Shinso, and Shinso almost brainwashed him, almost. When he tried to do it again, Midoriya basically grabs Todoroki by the face, taking the ice head on, and just breaking out of it, and still basically threatening to beat the shit out of Todoroki, who did that again. But Shinso would also lose because he would have been one shot if Midoriya didn't step in to save him. Well, Todoroki tries to just go all out for the first try. Midoriya does not respect that. Todoroki's a bit mad until Midoriya actually just slaps him in front of thousands of people. And just tells Todoroki he's also disqualified. And no one's going to argue with Midoriya. Well, actually, someone's Endeavor. Midoriya jumps in trying to demand why Todoroki's disqualified, but Midoriya's at Endeavor before just inhaling and then blowing on Endeavor's face, extinguishing the flames on it. Endeavor looks confused, only for Midoriya to tell him, "You don't get to judge here, I'm the ref." And he's shoved clean to the stands. But not even shoved, he just literally pushed and he got sent flying. But All Might would actually be able to catch him in midair, boosting his forward, catching him and putting him back down, saying, yeah, he takes his roles here very seriously. Now, when Todoroki goes to the back, he's actually very annoyed, but Bakugo ends up talking to him. Bakugo's still, I would say Bakugo's personality is very advanced, like kind of how it is in the current story in the anime, but in terms of power, very much how it is in the final exams. If not, at this point, probably a bit better, probably towards, not in the war arc, but still he's a bit ahead. But Bakugo and Todoroki talk, and as they talk, Todoroki's able to hear what Bakugo is telling. Bakugo's like, even if the flames are his work, you can use them in your own way. The way he uses them, you don't need to. They're on your body, not his. So he has a very similar moment of it's your quirk, not his. He has a very similar moment to that, but it's more or less just Bakugo being a bit meaner about it in terms of wording. Because Bakugo's still Bakugo. But for the hero killer. What people have said about Stain and how he fights all that from what UA's gotten reports of, Midoriya actually won tasked catching Stain. So as everyone's about to leave towards the set destinations, everyone's asking Midoriya, what he's doing with him. He says, "Oh, I was tasked with catching Stain." It's said that he uses weapons and is pretty agile and a martial artist, and who better than UA's martial arts instructor to catch him? Ida, seeing this opportunity, she asks Midoriya to, be involved in the case. But Midoriya then uppercuts Ida right in the stomach. And Ida wakes up in his hero's office. But Ida would also be told by, his instructor. I'm pretty sure the guy's name is Manuel. Manuel would tell Ida, yeah, the guy who brought you here said you're not allowed to leave unless you're on patrol with me, and even then you have to be tracked. Ida would ask why, and he says something about your brother being hit by a hero killer. Is that why you joined me? Because I'm in the area he gets attacked? Ida realizes that Midoriya read him like a book, so he's trapped here. So there's no crash out Ida. He's forced to stay behind. The hero killer, though, Midoriya would basically be able to find Stain first day. But if Midoriya is on his own, just wanders around, plus he moves fast as shit. So when Midoriya is walking through an alley, he looks up, seeing Stain, and Stain is about to attack a hero. But Midoriya would jump in, blocking Stain's attack, by basically using the small bone that you can basically see on your wrist. He would block it using that, and then when Stain realizes he can't cut through that, Midoriya just backhands Stain into a wall. Or backfist Stain into a wall. Then he's wondering who Midoriya is, and Midoriya says, oh, he's the martial arts instructor at UA, and he was tasked with catching Stain. But also, you attacked his student's brother. So, he's going to help his student get his revenge. Now, when Stain hates that, Stain would actually kind of thought about it in his head. He's getting revenge for his student. His student wants revenge, his student can't do it, so Midoriya's doing it for him. So he kind of laughs, saying, so, your student was going to commit a crime, but you're going to do it for him legally. Stain says he doesn't know whether to hate Midoriya or love him. It's funny. Midoriya says he's not into guys. He prefers Stain to hate him. Him and Midoriya fight, and eventually by the end of it, Stain is the one who's losing when he just tried to exude a bloodlust, and Midoriya would laugh before exuding his aura of heroism. And Stain would immediately basically be taken aback by all the aura coming out of Midoriya. Before he actually just bows and puts his head down and says he'll hopefully be arrested. He's handcuffed, and then Midoriya turns him in. But first he brings him before Ida, and immediately Ida tells Stain what he knows about Tensei and all that. And Stain simply just says he made a lapse in judgment. He thought all heroes were the same. Ida proved him wrong. Midoriya proved him wrong. So with this, Stain is arrested, and now he has realized he believes he belongs there. Now he doesn't really kind of view Midoriya, only kind of views Midoriya as his own version of his own kind of hero. He's someone who preaches pure justice and heroism. All Might does too, but also he inspires hope. Midoriya has the same mentality as Garp, is that old people are kind of useless in the new generation. So Midoriya kind of views all sci-fi UA as kind of useless. If they're over 40, they're useless to him. 39 is an iffy thing for Midoriya. So he's definitely not like All Might. He even views All Might himself as useless. But he's still definitely a very much heroic person. Now for Training Camp Arc. For that one, Midoriya is basically here as, a proctor as well. And he's also kind of just flirting with Ragdoll and Mandalay a lot. And Pixie Bob. But eventually, when it comes down to the attack by the Vanguard Action Squad, when it comes down to that, Midoriya is bringing food to Koda, and then we end up seeing Muscular go in to grab Koda. But Midoriya actually grabs Muscular's hand. Muscular tries to, almost Midoriya. Midoriya just says, is that it? And he's basically crushing Muscular's hand. Muscular's willing out of pain and pull Midoriya off of him, and Midoriya just starts kind of lecturing like a kid, telling him about a bad villain like he's a dog. Eventually, Muscular's in so much pain, he actually just faints. And when Midoriya let go of Muscular's hand, Koda realized Midoriya basically crumpled his hand into a ball. Then Midoriya looked around, and he would actually be able to actually hear a rampage, but also a student crying. A very specific student who was not emotional. Midoriya put Koda on his back for dashing down to the ground, and then, before anyone knew it, Midoriya is punching Tokoyami right in the face. And you end up hearing Dark Shadow yell, saying, hell no, not him. Even Dark Shadow knows you don't fight Midoriya. Tokoyami would hit the ground, holding his cheek, but thinking Midoriya. Midoriya says, he heard crying. Tokoyami isn't one to cry. Quit it. He would put Koda down, and he looks at Shoji, telling him, take care of these two. Suddenly, we see a blade flying at Midoriya, but he would just put his hand up, letting the blade go through it. And that blade was from Moonfish. Midoriya would run along, the blade still in his hand, not really being phased by it. But he would grab Moonfish by the mouth and then just squeeze, shooting all of his teeth out of his mouth. Moonfish hit the ground, kind of just groaning in pain, as Midoriya would end up ripping his sleeve, wrapping it around his impaled hand. Then with one punch, all everyone sees is a shockwave from where Midoriya is. And he walked over holding a very badly battered Moonfish. And then he tells Shoji, you're instructed him too. His quirk is done now. Shoji just nodded as Midoriya made his way through the forest. He continuously finding villains. By the way, if you guys are wondering about the faculty testing about that, it kind of went the same, but Shinso and Bakugo were a team instead. All Might was almost caught, but he probably was. I don't see him being able to break out of one for all like Midoriya did, or break out with one for all like Midoriya did. So I can actually see All Might losing and being handcuffed by Bakugo. So if anything, All Might was actually beaten by Shinso and Bakugo. Everyone else had the same results, but they actually did show off great martial prowess in these fights. But I'm back to the forest. So Midoriya arrives to find Pixie Bob as to be hurt by Magna. Then Midoriya really just neck chop Magna, and then Pixie Bob escapes. And then same with Ragdoll, where he saves her. And he goes through the forest, basically beating down everyone in his way with really minimal effort. Even when it came down to like Mustard, and Mustard would see someone entering his smoke, and he's like, "Oh, someone who's not wearing a gas mask. They're at my disposal, or at my mercy." But usually Midoriya will go fleeing, inhaling all the gas. Midoriya just says, "You need a stronger dosage to knock me out." And just then from behind, it says he would just punch Mustard in the back of the head full force, knocking him out, and probably giving him a brain injury. Midoriya then goes to find Momo and Awase, the guy with the welding quirk. And when they run into Midoriya, he just looks at Nomu and then glares at it. Nomu's halted in place. Momo tells Midoriya she has a tracking device she wants him to put on it. Can he do that? It not before just poking the Nomu in the chest with a tracking device, embedding it in its flesh. And then Nomu doesn't even bother swinging at Midoriya. He just glares at it and it walks away. And that's his aura of heroism. Then Midoriya went on to go find Dabi, and Dabi tries to burn Midoriya and be grabbed through the flames, and Midoriya actually willfully yank his jaw downwards, yanking it like it's dangling. Dabi yells in pain and hold on to his jaw. Just in time, Toga does stab Midoriya, but he just glares at her, and even she just freezes. Then Midoriya is also confronted by Twice, and now Dabi trying to fix his jaw, but also try to compress down Midoriya. The thing is, when he gets near Midoriya, like his hand, Midoriya he won't rip it from his body, but he will definitely give Mr. Compress the meanest arm yank of all time, which is probably definitely broken. So yeah, but just like Kogiri would arrive, asking everyone what they got, and they all say, we got our asses kicked. He saves Toga, Dabi, Magna, he saves the same group as Canon. Now by the end of it though, no one really had to fight. Midoriya was the one who kind of did everything, because he's just fast enough to get around the forest. But the next arc, aka movie, is Two Heroes. Midoriya is basically the chaperone for Class 1A who went here. But then when it came down to people getting detained, Midoriya being chaperone was escorting around Class 1A. But when this was happening, Midoriya's straightforward nature would be to say he's gonna go stop it. He'd walk in the room, everyone's ready for a fight, and the blink of an eye, the villain would scatter across the room with Midoriya beating Wolfram over the head with like a random chair. And just by then, Bakugo already walked in, untying All Might. The movie ends almost as soon as it starts. It's not really a hard thing for Midoriya to arrive and then beat the shit out of someone. Next arc is a hideout raid, and here, Midoriya is involved. He is more of a hero and a teacher at UA than a student. He graduated early. But also, he would involve Nejire and Tamaki, and Miria, of course. With this one, they're able to find the Nomu base. Miria's actually looking around it, phasing through everything, or getting a little holding his head above, half his head above the ground, going through it quickly, then shrinking back down, shrinking out of the ground, going back in, all that. But eventually, he would find All For One sees him, and he gets this typical Mirio butt distraction. Then Mirio would use that to escape. And then for the base where the League of Villains are, Midoriya is there on his own. He would knock on the door, And when someone gets near it, you yank his hand through it, grab Spinner by the face. When he's held in the air by two large hands, Midoriya just walks through the door, like they didn't just open it, just walks through it. Kind of like how Yujiro walk through bulletproof glass. Midoriya proceeds to dog the entire League of Villains, including Kurogiri, until they're all saved by All For One. When it comes to All For One, All Might is the one who's going to fight All For One, and the fight goes on. Actually, All For One and All Might doing pretty damn good for the fight. But then when it comes down to All Might exhausting all of his energy for that one of like the moment where All For One reveals who Shigaraki's grandmother is. When All For One expects All Might to be stunned, he would get a memory of when Midoriya was training him. And Midoriya is telling him, you can't let emotions dictate your fight. When you do that, you'll lose or you'll be injured. So All For One's shock, All Might instead would actually blitz in his base form and just yell, Shigan. He would stab his middle finger right into All For One's throat. All For One spit up blood, only for All Might to buff up, and then using a smash switch overhand punch All For One's skull into the ground, saying he should kill All For One for doing what he did. And lo and behold, All For One does die. All Might killed him. He impaled him through the throat. He's dead. So yeah, All For One's dead. Right here now. He is gone. Dunzo. Erased. And everyone sees this. Like, everyone sees All Might kill All For One. It's like, oh, he's a symbol of peace. Killing would be wrong. Everyone who knows what All For One did and how All Might was being so seriously beaten, they know killing him was one way out of this fight. Like, Midoriya felt Shigan for the sake of killing a villain in one quick motion, because he doesn't believe all villains should live. He's still like Garp. So yeah, so All Might had killed All For One, and he knows it. He also knows that Shigan existed, so yeah. Excuse me. Midoriya would basically walk over, turn to All Might, help him to his feet, and then raises All Might's fist for him. But then All Might kind of just says he still has Ember's One for All left. And Midoriya just says, well, let them go out. You beat All For One. All Might just nods, actually fainting into Midoriya, being exhausted. Now, let's end this part here. So if you guys want more of the story, like or comment for it, or get the video to like 10 likes and I'll post part 2. Or 3, maybe after. I hope you guys enjoyed. Adios.